Jai Mahamaya Ki Jai. We'll go on with chapter 41 from the Devi Bhagavatam, retold by Ramesh Menon. Breathlessly, Sukanya told Chavana of the ashram's strange proposition. Then she said, "My lord, I don't know what I should do." The Muni cried, "What is there to think about? Bring the ashvins here at once and agree to their condition." Like the wind, Sukanya ran back through the forest to the splendid twins and said, "Devas, I will do as you ask. Come with me and transform my husband." The ashvins came with her to the ashram. They said, "Let us go to the lake and bathe in it." Sukanya led her husband to the water by his hand. On his bank, the gods from Devaloka said, "Muni, enter the lake and immerse yourself." Sukanya helped the rishi into the clear water. As he waded cautiously in, the ashvins also went in with him. On either side of the rishi, they took his hands and led him into the deep enough water so all three of them could immerse themselves entirely. So they did as Sukanya watched them. They submerged for a long moment, and when they emerged again, the ancient Muni Chavana had vanished, and instead 3 shining ashvins walked out of the lake. All 3 were young, wore the same ornaments, and each one was exactly like the other. They said to her all together, "Now, choose one of us, whom you love best, to be your husband." And their voices were exactly alike as well. For her life, which she felt was at stake if she chose a deva who was not her husband, Sukanya could not tell one from the other. She thought perhaps the third figure of light was yet another deva. Trembling, she began to meditate on the highest Prakriti, the Devi Bhagavati. "Mother of worlds," Sukanya prayed desperately, "I offer myself at your feet. Preserve my chastity. Show me which of these is my husband." Moved by the young woman's sincerity, the Devi blessed her with a subtle Satagyana. Again, Sukanya looked at the 3 devas before her, and they were identical. But now her mind clearly knew which one was her husband. She went up and took his hand, saying, "This is my lord Chavanya, and I choose him for my husband." The ashvins were enchanted. They cried, "There is no one as chaste as you are, Sukanya. We bless you." But as they prepared to leave that forest, Maharishi Chavanya said, "Devas, I thank you 1,000 times. I thank you. You have blessed me with your youth and beauty, and most of all with my eyesight again, that I can now see and please this wife of mine. I also have some punya shakti, devas. Let me grant you a boon, anything your hearts desire." For just a moment, the ashvins were thoughtful, and then they said, "We have everything we want with our father's blessings, yet at Brahma's great yagya on the Golden Mountain, Indra said that because we are physicians, we should not drink the somarasa. It is the only thing we thirst for, O Muni, for we have heard that there is no drink to match the ambrosial soma. If you can help us to drink the somarasa, that would be a great boon." Without a moment's hesitation, Chavanya said, "Ashvins, King Saryati will perform a yagya, and there you shall drink the somarasa in the very presence of Lord Indra." Janamejaya asked, "But how could Chavanya, who was only a rishi, go against the word of mighty Indra, the king of the Devas?" Narada went on. One day, after some months of her being married to the Muni, Sukanya's father came across his wife, the queen, sobbing her heart out in her chambers. He took her hand and cried, "My love, what ails you that you cry like this?" She groaned, "Every time I think of my child, I feel as if my heart will break. Ah, how can any mother endure this? My princes, who was raised in the midst of every luxury, now spends her day tending to that decrepit old man. She lives on roots and leaves like a slave in the forest. She must be wan and wasted with tapasya, and is this the age for her to be doing penance? Then her husband is blind. I cannot bear to think of the torture she undergoes day by day. I beg you, my lord, go to my child and make sure she is well, and ask her if there is anything we can do to alleviate her misery. Saryati arrived in the forest ashram. As he walked toward the Muni's hut, he paused in the trees, for what he saw there shocked him. He saw Sukanya sharing an intimate moment with a splendid young man whose body shone like the gods. Indeed, he saw them kiss tenderly. Then the young man went back into the ashram, and Sukanya began sweeping the yard. Her father, hidden in the trees, saw how radiant his child looked, but nowhere did he see the wretched old Chavanya. The king's chest heaved with outrage. He thought his princess had killed his old husband and was now living in dreadful sin with this brilliant young man. But there was no crime as heinous as killing a great rishi and her own husband besides. Saryati had tears in his eyes. He thought this was the expiation for his own sins of the past, that he must live to see his daughter fallen so low. She was a stain upon the blemishless line of Manu Prajapati. But then again he wondered that she seemed so lambent, as if the Spirit's purest light still burned brightly in her heart. No woman who has committed the sin he suspected of her could be as carefree and joyous as he saw she was. For once done, her sin would consume her body and soul. Suddenly, as the king stood there distraught, his daughter saw him through the trees. With a cry, she ran to him and flung her arms around his neck. "Father, how wonderful to see you here." Then she paused. She saw how pale and strained he was. She saw that he wept. She cried, "What is the matter, father? Why are you crying?" Saryati turned his face away from his daughter and said grimly, "Sinful child, who was that young man I saw you with? Aren't you at least bit ashamed of yourself and the sin you live in?" She began to laugh as sweetly as ever. Then in a moment she was solemn, and her huge eyes were full of tears. Sukanya said, "Father, how can you doubt me like this?" But he raged, "Don't tell me. I saw you kissing that young man full on the lips with my own eyes." Sukanya cried, "That young man is my Lord Chavanya. The Ashvins gave him this lustrous body and his youth. They restored his sight to him. If you still doubt me, come and ask him yourself." Saryati came to the young man and said, "Son of Brigu, where has your age vanished?" But doubt seized him again, and he cried, "How can you be Chavanya? Tell me, young man, who are you, and where is the Muni?" Then Chavanya said in his own voice, "King, the Ashvin twins blessed me, and in return I have sworn that I will help them drink Soma Rasa at an Agnihotra yagya that you will perform." Saryati peered closely at the youth's eyes, and he saw that he was indeed Chavanya, Muni, transformed. The king bowed to the sage and said, "I swear I will perform the yagya." So Saryati undertook the sacrifice. He spared no expense on the arrangements, and Chavanya himself invited Vashishta, Narada, and the holiest rishis on heaven and earth. When the yagya was underway, Indra came there with his devas to drink the Soma Rasa. Then the Ashvins arrived as well in the Yagyashala. Chavanya offered the golden chalice that contained the Soma Rasa to them. But Indra cried, "Stop, Muni, they must not drink the Soma Rasa." Chavana said, "Lord, these are Surya Deva's sons. They are born from his wife. What is their fault that they should not drink the somarasa? I have sworn they shall drink the soma. Indeed, this Agnistoma Yagya is so that the Ashvans may drink the rasa. Look what they have done for me. I cannot break my word to them. Indra replied, these twins have been made the physicians of the Devas. They serve the rest of us, and we look down on them. They shall not drink the soma. Maharishi Chavanya's eyes blazed at the Deva king. He said softly, you committed adultery with Ahalya. You have killed Vitrasura with treachery. Who are you then to sit in judgment over the Ashvins? They shall drink the soma at the sacrifice. The hush fell on the Yagyashala, but it seemed everyone there, even the other Devas, saw the justice of what Chavanya said. They all knew that his ancient enmity with Suryadeva was the true reason for Indra barring the Ashvins from drinking the somarasa. But now the illustrious Bhargava brought the golden chalice of soma to the Ashvins. Indra hissed, stop, Chavanya, or I will have your head. The Muni ignored him and held the chalice of soma out to the Ashvins. Indra roared, Rishi, beware. Take that cup back, or I swear I will sever your head with my vajra. But Chavanya paid him no mind. He gave the chalice into the Ashvin's hands. In a flash, Indra cast his vajra like jagged lightning at the Rishi. But Chavanya merely raised his palm, and that ultimate weapon was arrested in the air. It hung still, as if petrified. His eyes crimson with rage, Chavanya threw some potent oblations into the yagya fire. A huge demon sprang from it. Her body and hair were scarlet flames, and her eyes were a nuclear fire. She stood blazing there for a moment. Then her body seemed to cleave itself into two, and from her issued an immense asura. He was awesome, he was dreadful, and he was called Mada, the Mad One. His body was like a mountain, his arms long as rivers. His face was like a planet with fangs 10 yojanas long. He yawned, his mouth wide as the sky, and in a wink swallowed Indra's vajra. Then, growling like the thunder of the apocalypse, he rushed at the Deva king. Indra flew from that yagna swift as light, and the demon chased him. Indra fled to Brihaspati and fell sobbing at his feet. Ah, Guru, save me. With his inner eye, Brihaspati saw what had happened. Then he saw the demon Mada swarming up the sky to find Indra and devour him. The Deva king luster had faded in a moment. He stood shaking before his wise master and whimpered, Guru, subdue that monster with a mantra. But Brihaspati replied, no mantra can subdue that asura. He is born from the Parashakti, whom Chavanya worships. There is only one person who can save you from that demon, Chavanya Muni himself. In a wink, Indra flew down to the yagya again and prostrated himself before the Maharishi. Forgive me, my lord. Call off your asura. Let the Ashvins drink the soma rasa from now on. I swear they shall always drink the soma. I beg you, Mahamuni, spare my life. By now, Mada arrived at the yagya. The Kritya from whom he had sprung had vanished back into the flames of the yagya fire. Chavana raised his hand over his head and murmured an arcane mantra. Earth and sky shook at the incantation, and Madasura found his huge body scattered like dust. The Devas heaved a sigh of relief. Their lord Indra stopped trembling. Chavana set the Devas in their places of honor again and completed his sacrifice. With his own hands, he made both Indra and the Ashvins drink the soma nectar. Great auspiciousness spread across the earth after Chavanya's yagya, and his ashram became renowned through the three worlds as a most blessed place. Manu's son Saryati's fame also spread, and after the Agnastrama yagya, he ruled his kingdom in peace, and no blemish marred his long and just reign. The earth was indeed like a part of heaven when Saryati ruled from the throne of the sun. Jai Mahamaya ki jai, Vishveshvari Mata ki jai, Bole Baba ki jai.